QXR represented. Okay.
I'm just waiting for us to go live as well. Just a couple more seconds. Live as well. Okay, let's get started. So hello, everyone, and welcome to this training session on implementing value stream mapping. This is your host, Etisham Hussain. I'm with Adrian de Rotours. If hopefully I've pronounced the name correctly. So have I, Adrian?
Yes, well, actually, it's a French name. It's de Rotours, but
de
it was
Rotours.
close. Yes.
Okay. So he's got a bunch of certifications. He's an MBA. He's got a PMP certification. He's an ITIL expert, which is not that many people. A lot of people have done ITIL foundations and ITIL intermediate, but there are very few ITIL experts around. And then we've got he's got a DevOps foundation and lead certification. He's a Scrum Master, Scrum Coach. So you guys are in really good hands today. So I don't want to waste any more of anyone's time. Adrian, off to you. Senior.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and thanks for everybody to join us on this webinar. So as you know, this is implementing value stream mapping, which is a tool, it's a technique. So the real goal for this webinar is to share with you not only theoretic concept. The goal is to show you how to implement the value stream mapping and where is the real adding value to do it in the middle of a non-agile environment, because it's normal to hear that a lot of companies are implementing agile, which is true. However, for DevOps, is completely other situation. So this will be probably other important goal for this webinar, is to understand what is really DevOps and how to implement DevOps. Where is value stream mapping into a DevOps implementation? Okay, so I'll try to move to the next slide. Well, you heard the introduction, so I have several certifications. I've been applying my knowledge for more than 25 years in several companies, learning for sure from my different jobs in several industries. As you can see here, I have experience in education, in telecommunication, in computer science, automotive, etc., etc. Right. So coming back to the content of this webinar, at the end, I really would like that you are able to capture some content about what is DevOps, as I said, about the benefit to implement the value stream mapping in the middle of a digital transformation process. We'll spend some minutes talking about that, right? Because digital transformation is not only to implement an automation tool, it's not only to move the infrastructure to the cloud, it's really more than that. So we'll spend some minutes talking about that. After that, the other interesting point is how to manage the application delivery process from the definition of the business requirement until the delivery. Again, DevOps is not only development and operation. DevOps is business. DevOps is vendor management. DevOps is understand the market as well, and put all the elements in a change and try to move forward, promoting the flow, promoting the feedback, and promoting the continuous experimentation, right? I mentioned the 3 DevOps way. Finally, the importance to avoid waste in the automation process and in all the company process. As you know, waste is one of the 3 elements of Lean, right? It's in Lean, we need to reduce waste, we need to reduce overburden, and we need to reduce inconsistencies as well, right? So hopefully in the rest of the time that we have, the next 40 minutes, we'll cover all these items, and we'll have some times to ask questions. A short recommendation before to start, or actually we started, is that if you have any question, please write the question in the chat windows at the same moment that you have that question. It's say, don't try to remember your question at the end because it would be really hard work. So if you have any question, please write the question at the end of the webinar. I'll be reading the question and I'll be responding then, okay? So the topics, specifically talking about the topics, is DevOps, as I said, only about automation or not? Removing the obstacles in application delivery process is a key function and responsibility of the IT managers right now. And you'll see that it's better to remove obstacles at the first that try to improve processes. What is the value stream mapping? Is the main topic of the webinars. We'll be learning the different steps to create it. At the end, we'll do an stream mapping exercise where we'll be integrating all the, again, the theoretic knowledge and the examples. So at the end of the webinar, we'll be doing an exercise and we'll see what happens if really a value stream mapping is a good tool or not. How many time will be improving, because this word time is a key word for DevOps. Sometimes in the traditional management, we usually use cost, scope, and other elements. However, for DevOps, times is the key word. And the final recommendation to implement value stream mapping will be the close of the presentation. Okay, so what you are seeing here is a map of the traditional enterprise. So for us as IT managers, it's really very hard to be agile. Because again, agile is not only to have a group of developers in a cellular doing continuous integration or making some automation in process and improve some specific application. Agile is more than that. So on the top of the graph, we are seeing the enterprise agility, and we are trying to arrive to that point. Let me know if you agree or not about all these statements, right? So we still have waterfall style decision-making and process. We continue having all managers like me, but with other mindset, right? It's they are trying to be agile. However, they are not delegating responsibility to the cellular, and each time that they need to make a decision, they would like to participate directly, so they are not really agile. We try to be agile, but we don't have a product owner. So, you know, we continue having several waterfalls style in our company. So automation and integration is hard, and really it is. Because just to give you an example, if you would like to automate the development environment, some pieces of the company sometimes are able to create their own environment, dev environment, just clicking and having all the gigabytes in a server to do it. However, other part of the company needs to do it under the formal process, and the formal process could take weeks and weeks. You know what I mean? So I really don't want to read everything. The material will be available for you, but you will see that it's the better way to start an improvement is to know what is the current scenario. It's to assess the current scenario and try to imagine a future scenario, but always starting from this point, right? So this, I like this one, right? Is Dev passes ops the peak over the wall. And this is the most common situation, right? We have a good development team working under an agile environment with all the tools, right? With Jira, with Jenkins, with Puppet. However, the operation team is working under the traditional way. So we'll have bottlenecks, we have communication issues, we'll have frustration. And I mentioned frustration, and you can say, hey, frustration is a psychological state, it's not a technical state. But in DevOps, frustration and culture things are really very important, as well, as we will be seeing in a few slides. Okay, so how we can scale requirements. Requirements usually are very detailed, and we are working the famous requirement documents. But what about the user stories, right? And how we could scale the user stories. So all this situation will put us in a difficult scenario. And for that reason, you will see how the value stream mapping is very, very useful. Okay. So moving to the next slide, the high velocity innovation. If we would like to apply really DevOps in our company, we need to consider these three circles. What are continuous integration and testing, continuous delivery and deployment, and continuous operations. On each circle, we'll have the build and the testing. And as you know, we have several tools to manage that. We have the release and deploy, and finally, the operation and monitoring. And the input for this continuous assessment is the business demand, or the business demands, right? The outputs will be the products that we would like to introduce in the market. So remember that the IT value chains is exactly this. It's a partial view of this change will make we fail. So these three elements are really very, very important for our development. And removing constraints with DevOps is to consider all these elements. And take a look on this approach, right? It's a, you usually could read in the news, in the job posting, we need a DevOps engineer, or we need a DevOps manager, or a DevOps, and they are focused only in tools, right? Or a cloud engineer, right? So we have two other knowledge areas that are impacting our DevOps implementation or digital transformation, and they are culture and process, okay? I will give you this good definition of DevOps, which is a cultural and professional movement where we have communication, collaboration, integration, right? And it's not only, again, infrastructure or automation. Value stream mapping will be a part of this process knowledge area, increasing visibility. Okay, I'm hearing that the audio is open. So do we have any question? Any situation there? No? Okay, so moving to the next slide, and we'll start to have more technical information over here. So what you are seeing it here is a typical change starting in the business demand over here. Let me check where is my cursor. And if you allow me to create the pointer, it will be better for you. So the laser pointer, here you are. So business demand, starting for business demand, the planning of the solution, the application development and testing as a unit, the release decision, if we could proceed with the release or not, the app releases itself, and finally the deployed application, right? And the lack of insights from internal and external customer causes high latencies and drives kitchen sinks requirement, right? So we plan often scopes that are too big. This is a traditional or the waterfall implementation, complex and take a long time to finish. Increasing number of projects remain work in progress, right? It's a, we are not able to close any pieces of development. We have a huge part of the project in process. So often there is no systematic build and integration process, and many tests are often manual that causes increasing latencies or incomplete test coverage. So this results often in high number of defects that require rework. And this is other key word, right? That they rework. So we detect in a late part of the change of the process that we have some defects and we need to rework. So poor confidence in test data fosters is release aversion, right? It's say, oh, we are not ready to release. Driving more work in progress. So the information security and compliance are engaged late in the process, causes delays and reworks. So patch in production leads to snowflake system, right? So this is one way flow leads, and we are trying to implement the two-way flow leads, right, in each part of the process. So this one-way flow leads to poor user experience, or we deliver apps too late, and as the consequence, lost revenue. And again, we are business oriented, right? So what are the main latencies in the application delivery chains after to explain all these points? Again, long wait time to set up dev and test environments due to ever increasing complexity of app ecosystem, manual and error-prone deploys between the different stages, error-prone manual handoff. Last but not least, each IT team is often silo, right? Working in silos, don't communicate and collaborate well. As a result, there is a lack of transparency into the end to end visibility that prevents predictable deliveries, right? So the business sees costs going up for poor outcomes. So this is the problem, right? So what we do to fix this situation? So moving to the next slide. So we have different strategy for every situation. So the lack of effective customer insight, okay, we insight in user satisfaction and business value from the very beginning, right? Sometimes we are focused in technical things. So we are trying to be focused in satisfaction and business value. And as you know, user story are very effective tools to do that. So for rapidly increasing work in progress, remember that we have a lot of things without close. So plan release and operation for business outcomes, creating small releases and focus again in business outcome rather than technical things. So for the isolated build and integration process, is streamlining development and build processes. For manual testing, is streamline accelerated testing through the automation. For poor confidence in test data foster, sorry about that, is improve quality and release visibility, sharing the information, improving the quality assurance rules for the quality automation, and provide visibility for all the releases, right? To have more people involved and to accelerate the user acceptance testing after the unit test, okay? So I forgot to say the short and wait time to set up environments. And remember that I mentioned that, right? If we could automate the environment requirements, that is a good point to reduce the wait time. In a few minutes, we'll see that the wait time is a critical part of the value stream mapping, okay? So for release decision is shorten the deployment cycles. Again, if we have the shorter deployment or the shorter release we have, the less time we'll assign to approve them. So for example, if we have as if in a financial company, for instance, I remember that we had 3 releases a year. So to approve a release, we took more than a month, for instance. So if we have monthly releases, or if we have 2 releases a month, the decision will take really shorter, okay? And for security compliance, security and compliance should be really a specific activity with owners, with approval path, because it's the only way to move forward with this specialty. And after that, optimize the change process. And let me stop for a while over here. Working in a traditional company under ITIL processes, as you know, we have standards changes, we have normal changes, and we have urgent changes, right? So usually, and try yourself in your company, a PDD 80% of the changes are normal changes. And normal changes means that you need to run the change approval process, okay? With a change board, with documentation to be presented 2 or 3 days before the change control board, etc., etc. And really, we could reduce the percentage of normal changes and move to standard ones. And standard changes are approved automatically, right? So it's a good thing to assume the risk to move normal changes to standard. You will see how we'll be reducing the lead time, because sometimes normal changes are repetitive, and how to move normal changes to standard ones. If a change, a type of normal change is appearing every month, and you will see that all the documentation is okay, and you don't have any risk, okay, you could move it to standard and assume a minimum risk. And that will be introducing a very interesting improvement into the change, right? And finally, the feedback, provide end user feedback during all the process, is something that will allow to reduce drastically the reworks, okay? So this is what we need to do. So modernize the application delivery like an app factory. It's about, let me check, sorry about that. It's about to, let me say on this way. Let's imagine IT as a factory, right? So a factory needs to deliver in a steady flow quality application to the business, right? So every factory will focus to reduce or eliminate waste in their supply chains, okay? Each factory. So waste is an inhibitor, an obstacle that prevents a smooth flow, and everything is related to the flow, to improve the flow of the manufacturing process and impact quality. So usually factories automate processes, seek opportunities to reduce latencies between those processes, and ensure they have visibility. So for that reason, we are saying, hey, we need to see our IT process as a factory. Remember, we usually say software factory. Okay, if we are a factory, it will be good to apply factory principles to our processes. So this is done to improve quality and increase graded product output in order to match supply with demands. So IT needs to operate like an app factory and treat the application delivery chains like a supply chain. For that reason, we are using lean or other factory terms, right? So communication, collaboration across teams are keys to success to achieve the factory's goal, like quality, delivery time, and product releases, right? So like a supply chains, the application delivery needs to be automated as much as possible, right? So low latencies between handoffs and keep visibility along the entire delivery chains, right? So as you know, we were talking about factory principles, about IT principles, and finally, we are arriving to the value stream mapping, because value stream mapping is only a tool, is a diagnostic tool of our software delivery lifecycle. However, we need to have a factory mindset to run the value stream mapping, right? Since it's flow-based, we need to consider the end-to-end work, starting, as we said in previous slides, from business demand to the outcomes. What we'll be doing with the value stream mapping? We'll use the value stream mapping to evaluate the process, basically identifying bottlenecks, waste, and finally, improvement opportunities. And why we are saying finally? Because value stream mapping exercise has two clearly split parts. And the first part is to assess the current scenario or state. And after that, detect the improvement opportunities and define the plans or the action items to improve. But it's really very important, because if we are trying to do both at the same times, the results won't be the expected, okay? So you are saying here on this part, the typical graph of a value stream mapping, where we have the flow and the different process, and you could have sub-processes as well, from the business demand to the deployed app or outcome, crossing planning, application development, testing, and releases, right? And what we need to assess for these processes, we need to assess or split what is really valuable, what are the death time or elapsed time, right? So we are saying here that to develop the business demand, we are taking 3 days, okay? So it's valuable for sure, we'll have a good outcome. To plan, we are assigning a week. We could discuss if it's traditional or is agile, right? Because we'll be, if we work under an agile methodology, really the planning will be during the sprint planning, never will take a week, right? Probably we could spend a week to create the product backlog, but not for planning. But imagine at this point something traditional, right? So the application development as itself, a little more than a week, okay? And the testing 6 weeks, the release 1 week, because we are considering some environment restriction and processes. And to deploy the app, it's to move finally to production, probably 5 hours is half day. However, and I put in red this, we have several death times or time between each processes. And our focus initially should be this. Because as I said a few minutes ago, if we have a traditional change control process and we need to wait a week to receive the approval for a change, so this is a typical death time, because we need the change control board analyzing the information and approving. And if we move that time to a click, a click, because we are moving normal changes to standard changes, wow, the elapsed time, the dead time will be really minimum. And you will see what's happened in a value stream mapping where we do that. Okay, so to have in mind for the next slide, we have value added time, we have elapsed time. Well, keep going. So why is it important to implement value stream mapping? It's not the idea to open the mic at this point for the audience, right? But after to talk about all we talked, I think that you are able to respond this question. Why it's important to implement value stream mapping? First is it's in common organization, and I'm not saying in every organization, right? But mostly in a common organization, we don't have a lead time metrics and its impact. We usually have, again, cost, capacity, but not specifically lead time. The time to market is something very important for the marketing sector, and sometimes this criticality is not moved to IT. The other is that the value stream mapping is an end-to-end map. So that is really very, very important as a communication tool for all the organization. And as you can see here, it's really very useful to say, okay, the coding team is here. However, we are seeing that they are participating with several days in all the change. So how we could improve this? Again, it's really a flow of value that usually we don't have in all the companies. And the other good news is that it's not really hard to implement. It's not really hard. The difficulty to implement the value stream mapping, and we'll see that, is to have all the required and main stakeholders aboard to create this. I don't know, I created several VSM for companies and customers, and it's an exercise that could take to have the first draft only a day, right? It's a full day with all the required people, and we could have this. And after you have this first draft, we could continue improving. And this is other very important point. The value stream mapping is not a picture. It's a film, it's a video. So we need to pay attention in all the changes. So to review the value stream map each a month or every month or each 3 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on the business, is really very important, because in other way, we could be designing a value change with raw information, okay? So VSM provides a framework to design the future state, right? This is the second part. So the two elements that I mentioned a few minutes ago for the stream value mapping are the current state map, right? And the future state. So what is specifically the current state map? It's to understand how the system is working today. The focus on today status, not in improvement. It's only the picture. For sure, we'll need to take several pictures into the process, but at this point is really picture. And in the while we are assessing the current scenario, we'll be highlighting the disconnection that we have among the processes, right? The other important thing is establishes a common languages. It could sound ridiculous to say common languages. Hey, we are speaking English, everybody. So why we are talking about common languages? Because in the same company, as you know, we have sectors that use a specific terminology to call specific processes or issues or situation, and other divisions, other sectors at the same company are using other information. Just to give you an example, when you have at the same company a traditional service management from a side and an agile team from other sides, usually the traditional are naming severities, are using escalation path, and for the agile team are only defects They are talking about critical defects or major defects. And in the traditional, they are talking about severity 1, severity 2. So into the stream value mapping, we'll start to use common language for everything. So that is other benefits of the current state. So help to identify key leverage points in the system and critical obstacles to improvement. It will be the input for the improvement that will be defining when we imagine the future state map, okay? And something that will be the output of the current state map are the schedule containing some dates to start the improvements and estimating in a ballpark way. In a ballpark way, it's enough. It's a high level estimation about the potential effort that we'll need. So this is that usually we do in a week to have a good idea. As you can imagine, to implement and to arrive to the future state map will be completely different, right? So this is really a one-day effort with all the required people. And to create the future state map could take longer, right? Because you need to depict the target and state of the redesigned system, and to estimate that. This is a more detailed estimation, and you need to estimate effort, resources, cost, time. So it's really it's a hard work. Always we need to think into the end-to-end solution. So we need to continue working with the different areas. So for that reason, it's hard, because probably in one day to have everybody aboard is good, but how the IT team will be involving business, managers, commercial people for a 1 month planning process, for instance. So, but we need to force this end-to-end thinking. In other way, we'll be fixing only some part of the change. So break system into manageable but related loops for implementation. This is oriented to have the famous MVP, is the minimum viable product, and check and assess results, okay? Another important thing is to assess and quantify improvement potential, right? Because we'll be imagining the future state map. However, we need to transmit what will be really the value of the improvement in dollars, right? In dollars, because we could talk about time, but after that, the decision maker would like to know how many dollars will be earning or improving or saving through this exercise, okay? So what are the steps to create really the value stream mapping? Because my intention is that tomorrow, next week, everyone who is attending this webinar really would like to implement the value stream mapping. It's only to start to receive some guidance from people with more experience, but it's really a good exercise to integrate the enterprise information, reduce waste, and improve processes, right? So the first step is to identify the process. As I show you, let me come back over here, is to identify all the process, and each company will have their own processes. Identify the customer, because each process will have internal customer, and we need to be customer and business oriented. Remember that. So if we are talking about testing or about development, who will be the internal customer for the development? The user, completely agree. However, the tester as well. So we need to involve the tester in our development as a customer as well. To document current process and who does it, for sure. Map the work within between the process steps. This is, let me come back here, the elapsed time. So we need to document what is happening between the process, not only into the process. What is happening between? Gather real data, right? Real data, because it's good to estimate the ballpark information, but to create the value stream mapping, we need to gather real information about performance, about amount of information that we are processing, about the size that we need to develop and to create environments, the technology that we are using, etc. So identify the value creating activities. It's again, the activities that are really adding value, and we'll see the difference between processing time and value added time, and it's really different. Record on timeline and calculate, because again, the picture of the real estate is the current state map, and we could define and we could do this really beautiful picture over here. However, after that, to complete the real days, hours, minutes, month, we need to do a good job recording on timeline and calculate. And determining the final objective that create the future state process map is the last step for the, the value stream mapping. Okay, we talk about what it is, a value stream mapping. We talked about the different parts or elements of the work stream mappings. We reviewed the step-by-step to create it, and who will be working. Because we mentioned main stakeholders, and many stakeholders is not really very specific, and we have to be specific, right? So we need this team to create the value stream mapping. We need a lean coach, and we'll review the responsibility of the lean coach. A lean coach slash facilitator is pretty the same. You could find BSM facilitator or lean coach. We need to have an executive sponsor. Since value stream mapping will be something to be implemented, if we don't have a sponsor coming from the board, it's an executive, our value stream mapping won't be the power that we are expecting. So the executive sponsor has to be into, right? So the value stream owner is basically the person that will be creating and managing the value stream. Remember that it's not a picture, so we need someone to update that information. The team members are all the process owners, right? And all the people who are participating into the process and into the elapsed time as well. Remember, the time within the different processes. And all the team resources that we need to estimate and to provide the information to make our value stream mapping accurate, right? So the lean coach responsibility is to provide the structure. It's someone who knows the value stream mapping methodology. Help the team to stay focused. And this is a very important statement, right? Imagine 20 people working in a room. Someone would like to share his or her experience. So we need to keep the team focused during the exercise, maintains a safe and respectful collaborative environment. So it's really a facilitator. Try to make everybody participate, respecting each other's. Helps him make decisions, because if we don't make decisions during the process, it would be really a very good meeting, like a party. So we need to make decisions, to reach agreement, to formulate solutions. So this is another important part or responsibility of the coach. And ensure the team takes ownership of the outcomes. It's we'll define a type of plan and we'll assign responsibles and times. And the lean coach needs to assure that the value stream mapping is finally created and all the action items are performed, right? What are the metrics for the value stream mapping? We have two types of metrics, the time metrics and the organizational metrics. The time metrics, we see this in the graph, are processing time, value added time, because the processing time is the time for each process. However, we could have some waste into the process. So processes time will be equal to value added time plus waste time, right? We have wait time within the process. We have cycle time is other way to mention the processing time. We have the total cycles is the total cycle time is excluding the wait time. And the total time, it's a cycle time plus wait time is named the lead time from the business demand to the outcomes. And organizational metrics are very important, mostly for wait time, are handoffs, approval, teams, reworks, and volume. So let's go to the last slide, right? And please try to integrate everything what we review on this exercise. So I will require probably 2 more minutes than expected because we are arriving to the 45 minutes. So this exercise is representing what we'll need to do in our process. So imagine this process, right? It's a, we have the reports of defects. We need to triage the defects and support, it's a to detect what are critical and what not. After that is the triage of the development and assign the right people. After that, we have the team development fixing the bugs, the defects, will be validating. And finally, the customer will be notified, right? This is a typical process. And here we could have these times, right? 5 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 2 weeks, etc., etc. So this will be the processing time, right? And in the bottom, we'll have the time within, which, for instance, from the customer reports detect until the triage support, it's decided. We have short time here, probably, or here probably is yes, 5 minutes, 3 days between triage support, move all the information to the development, and that will be the wait time. And the lead time is an addition of both times. So what we'll do? First, analyze how long does it take to resolve a defect? What are the key steps? How much time is spent on each step? And when we have that information, we need to evaluate the elapsed time, right? How much time between steps? What is the total end-to-end cycles? Where is value created in process? Remember that we mentioned processing time, it's equal to value added plus waste. So what are really the value in each process? And how much time is spent on value versus the rest, okay? So our goal will be to remove waste and optimize the cycles. And take a look, that this is very interesting. After to do the 4 steps that I mentioned before, we'll be reducing, because this is the future stage, we'll be reducing the time processing from a week, 2 weeks, from 2 weeks to 1 week. We'll be reducing the wait time from 3 weeks to 1 week. The same for the rest. And our focus always will be to reduce the bigger times, right? Here we have 1 week between dev triage and assignment and dev fixes back. So improving the process, reducing the time, paging the right people, we could reduce to 5 days. Here, the dev fixes back, we could implement automation and we could reduce 1 week, right? So this is the way to reduce the wait, the lapse time, wait time, and to improve processes. And this is an statistical information coming from several value stream mapping applied into the market. So there are several databases to provide that information. And usually the improvement is more than 50%. So the final recommendation, BSM are not telling us how to fix the problem. It's only a tool, right? To represent the current state, and after that, to think how to remove waste and how to improve process, improve processes, sorry. So value stream mapping identified where are the waste, right? And the team needs to create how to remove it, how to imagine the future state. So provide a picture of the process. The recommendation here is provide the picture is true, but the environment are really very dynamic. So we need to take several pictures to have a type of video. And the VSM reduce the time required to bring value to the customers. So I exceed my time some minutes, so sorry about that. So we could move to the question and answer. Let me know if I can see the question in some places or if we'll open the mic and start to respond the questions.
So I have enabled the mics on the attendees devices. You guys can ask questions if you want. Sergio says thank you. So thank you, Sergio, for attending. And we've got a few more attendees here. If you guys have any questions, do feel free to ask them. I'm putting in an email address in the chat.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you. Questions, or we could come back to any specific slide, because sorry about that. I really would like to share a lot of content with you. So you could tell me, hey, Adrian, could we come back to, I don't know, this one, the value stream mapping role, because I would like to go deep to any specific role, and we could do it. So questions or require more information.
All right, so I've put in an email address in the chat as well, marketing@quickstart.com. So you guys signed up for this training session for DevOps Institute. DevOps Institute is an initiative by Quickstart. So we are part of the same company. I see there's a question. What is a value stream network? What are the nodes and lines?
Okay, excellent. Let me go back over here. So the network, yes, we could really to say that it's a network. It's when we talk about network, we could have several relationships. The stream mapping is a flow diagram oriented. So it's a type of sequential graph. So usually we have successors and predecessors, and the relationship try to be one-to-one, right? It's when we have a network, we could have here other node, here other node, and this node could have 2 or 3 predecessors, right? The value stream mapping usually is a linear flow. So the nodes are each process, and the line in the networks are the wait time or the lapsed time. So for that reason, we are representing on the top here, the time for nodes or processes. And on the bottom, we are represented the time of the lines that are usually the process within. So here, to be more clear, we could put here, for instance, approval process. Here we could put triage, team board decision. Here we could put time to market. We could have continuous delivery and have ready all the deliverables, but we need to wait 2 months to move the product to the market. Imagine the CPU processors. Intel has, I don't know, processor for the next 5 years. However, here they have a wait time until they release the processor to the market. Okay? Other question, or if you would like to ask more questions? Again, I think that my email will be available for you, and any question that you have, you could send the email to Quickstar, and it would be my pleasure to continue providing you more information.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Adrian, for a very educational session. on value stream mapping. We will do this again next month under the DevOps Institute banner. And I invite all of you guys to attend at that session as well. Thank you very much. Bye,
Thank you very
everyone.
much, and have a good rest of the day, evening, or morning. Bye-bye. Thank you.